You're listening to an Airwave Media Podcast.
Hello, and thanks for joining Revolution 250, where we look at events that took place 250 years ago this week. This is from the American Revolution Podcast, just a short bonus episode to remind you about important anniversaries from the Revolutionary War. Today, we remember the news of Lexington and Concord finally reaching London. In the days that followed Lexington and Concord, the Provincial Congress received reports or took depositions of people involved in the day's events. The Committee of Nine took 97 depositions over the next 3 days. We know much of Paul Revere's efforts on those days because of the report he wrote for Congress. Many of these reports ended up in the journals of the Continental Congress. Committees of correspondence sent copies to all the other colonies via express riders. Patriots thought it was critical that they get out their side of the story first. The events of the day could be painted as out-of-control colonists attacking soldiers who simply marched down the road, or as regulars terrorizing the colonists who merely defended themselves. Whoever fired first at Lexington became an important point of contention. The colonists claimed that the regulars fired first, while British officers claimed that someone fired at the soldiers before they returned to fire. The leaders in Massachusetts wanted to convince the other colonies to join them in the fight. If the others believed that Massachusetts had provoked an unjustified fight, they might be left on their own. In Boston, British officers prepared reports on the events of the Concord raid and wrote letters to friends and family back home. Some criticized the colonists for their refusal to face the regulars in a line of battle, instead firing from behind defenses and mostly running when attacked. Others, though, gained a new respect for the locals. Lord Percy had dismissed the militia weeks earlier, saying they would run from the field if he even drew his saber from its scabbard. Now, after watching the provincials stand under fire, advance on the regulars, and inflict heavy casualties, he had to reassess his views. These people would not be easily conquered. General Gage collected reports from his officers and prepared his own report for London. For whatever reason, Gage decided to downplay the events to his superiors. His report to Lord Dartmouth covers the facts only briefly, as do the reports of his subordinate officers. General Gage had spent a few days collecting reports from his officers and writing his own. He then sent the reports to London on April 24th aboard the Suki, a slow-moving commercial vessel. Meanwhile, the Provincial Congress wanted to get their side of the story to London first. They hired the ship Quero, captained by Richard Derby, a member of the Provincial Congress. The Quero left the port of Salem on the evening of April 28th, 4 days after the Suki. Unlike the Suki, the Quero traveled without freight, trying to speed across the Atlantic and arrive first. Derby successfully avoided British ships patrolling American coasts and raced his ship across the ocean. Derby next had to avoid having his documents seized before they could be published. So, rather than sail into London, Derby docked at Southampton and traveled overland to London. Now, he had instructions to deliver the information to Benjamin Franklin, who was the colonial agent in London. By this time, though, Franklin was back in Pennsylvania, having left London for good in March. Derby soon made contact with Arthur Lee, another colonial agent, who got the documents to the mayor of London, a steadfast supporter of the colonies, John Wilkes. The story almost immediately hit the newspapers. The King, Lord North, and Lord Dartmouth had to discover the outbreak of hostilities along with the rest of the public, reading the colonists' side of the story in the London Evening Post, printed on May 29, 1775. Dartmouth attempted to summon Derby for more information. However, probably out of concern for his arrest, Derby slipped out of London on June 1st. He had prearranged for his ship to leave Southampton and meet up with him in Falmouth, probably to avoid any government orders that might have been sent to Southampton to prevent his ship from leaving. Derby returned to Salem, leaving his ship even before it docked on July 19th so that he could report his completed mission to the Provincial Congress. It took nearly 2 more weeks for General Gage's reports aboard the Suki to reach Lord Dartmouth's desk on June 10th. By that time, everyone in London was well acquainted with the Patriot version of events. Gage's reports largely confirmed the events of the day, other than the claim that the militia had fired first at Lexington. With blood spilled, there was no more consideration of compromise in London. Dartmouth wrote to Gage on July 1st, saying in part, "From the moment the blow was struck and the town of Boston invested by the rebels, there was no longer any reason to doubt of the intention of the people of Massachusetts Bay to commit themselves to open rebellion. The other 3 New England provinces have taken the same part, and in fact all America, Quebec, Nova Scotia, and the Floridas excepted, is in arms against Great Britain, and the people involved in the guilt of levying war against the king in every sense of the expression. In this situation, every effort must be made, both by sea and land, to subdue the rebellion." Dartmouth chided Gage about the fact that the rebels had delivered their reports to London well in advance of his. He suggested that, quote, "In any future event of importance, it will be thought proper to send your dispatches by one of the light vessels of the fleet." So the Patriots won the first round of propaganda, both in the colonies and in England. Winning a war, though, would require not only convincing the world that their cause was just, but that the colonies could defeat the British Empire in a clash of arms. I hope you've enjoyed this Revolution 250 moment. For more on this story, check out episode 56 of the American Revolution podcast.